Hey, my name's Clayton Olson, and I have two questions for you. Do you feel like you're dating the same person over and over again in multiple relationships, but they just have a different face? Do you feel like a lot of the same challenges or the dysfunction that comes up in one relationship comes up in new relationships over and over again with different people? If you've answered yes to that, you may be in an unhealthy relationship pattern. And in this video, I'm going to talk about three very specific ways that you can break out of this pattern and free yourself of mediocre relationships and start to date a higher caliber of individual where there's going to be more love, happiness, and just equanimity between the two of you. Step one, ask yourself why. There's a reason you go for the people that you go for. Maybe you like dramatic people. Maybe you like people that challenge you. Maybe you like potential partners that have ambitious or addictive personalities. People, regardless of whether it's dating, in the workplace, or just even around the house, whether you're eating breakfast or trying to choose a route to go to work, we all search for familiarity. And the reason why is because it feels safe. This dates all the way back to our childhood. Look at the relationships that you had with the authority figures in your life, like your parents or whoever raised you. If you liked your parents, you might find yourself choosing potential partners that are very similar to them. If you didn't like your parents, you might find yourself choosing polar opposites. But regardless, you're allowing familiarity to dictate your choices. You know, a real way that this can occur is if you had a parent who, say, had an addictive personality or was out of control and you felt like you had to manage them as a child, you might end up picking partners that have the exact same issue because you've created the strategies and the persona or the tools to deal with that type of archetype of person. So you find yourself naturally attracted to someone that echoes that same type of character trait because you just know how to manage it. It's familiar, it's easy, and in some strange way, it feels safe. So the beautiful thing is, once you are able to identify this as a pattern and why it's in your life, you're then able to break it. So that's step one. Ask yourself why and take a good look at to what is the common trait among all of the partners that you've been dating and look at the origin of where it's coming from. Step two, become aware of how you speak to yourself. And I don't mean out loud. I mean inside your mind. And the reason why is because often the partners that we choose reflect some sort of deeper vision that we have of ourselves. And the way that they speak to us is typically echoing an already running dialogue that's inside of our heads, and it's very similar to the way that we already talk to ourselves. So, for instance, pay very special attention to how you speak to yourself when you're up against failure. What do you say to yourself when you get rejected? How about when you accomplish something? Or how about when somebody gives you a compliment? The grooves and the patterns that we fall into when we end up dating somebody, they often speak to us in a way that's very similar to what we already have going on in our head. Because for us to pick someone that speaks to us in a way that is drastically unfamiliar, it just wouldn't resonate. We wouldn't feel comfortable with them. So if you are in a relationship or in a series of relationships where you don't feel good about yourself, when you exit those relationships, begin to change the way and become conscious of and then change the way that you talk to yourself. Because when the new dialogue that you have running in your mind is one that is positive, is one that has a quality of the type of person you would ideally want to be with, suddenly that becomes familiar. And the type of person you then call into your life will be of a new, higher caliber that will echo that dialogue rather than the old destructive one. So that's step two. In step three, consciously practice loving yourself. You know, a lot of times when people get out of relationships, the fear of being single is so overwhelming that it drives them to unconsciously jump back into another relationship with just anybody. And oftentimes that anybody is somebody that they're familiar with, somebody that they feel comfortable with. So they unconsciously go right back into the same pattern over and over and over again. So conquering the fear of being single is absolutely critical to breaking an unhealthy relationship pattern. Because when you can be happy being single, You can then choose to be in a relationship based on your values and based on love rather than fear. All of these tips that I've given you today have one thing in common, and that's you. And when you are able to master your relationship with yourself, you are then able to enter into a union with your eyes wide open and use it as a platform for self-expression and love, which will ultimately result in it being sustainable and fulfilling for both of you. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and like it, subscribe to my channel, ask a question in the comments below, and I'd be happy to get back to you.